Week 10 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers this week. Noah Brown of the Houston Texans. And Noah Brown, he had a monster ball game in last week's game. 6 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm not expecting Noah Brown to go out there and put those numbers up weekly, but right now available in 88% of fantasy leagues. He's the number 3 wide receiver on this team for this Houston Texan team. I know Robert Woods was out, but right now after a performance like that, I don't really think we're going to see Robert Woods seize the field. Nico Collins is the number 1 receiver there. Tank Dell, another breakout game for him with 2 touchdowns. And Noah Brown having the monster games. CJ Stroud spreading all very well around the field to all his playmakers. And Noah Brown, even last season with the Dallas Cowboys, we've seen some good games out of him. So this week here in a matchup at Cincinnati, where we know this Texan team, they've had trouble all season running the football and getting the run game going. I think once again they're going to throw the football a whole lot. And Noah Brown's been a big part of the offense after coming off an IR in Week 6. So he's a sleeper option this week. The next receiver is Juju Smith-Schuster of the New England Patriots. And now with Kendrick Bourne banged up and out for the season with the torn ACL, Juju Smith-Schuster has to step up. And he signed a nice deal in the offseason, 3 years, $33 million. So the last 2 weeks, he's getting more plays, is Juju Smith-Schuster, and putting up some points. Even though Week 8, it was fluky, 1 catch, 3 yards and a touchdown. In Week 9 versus the Commanders, 6 catches, 51 yards. So Devontae Parker, he really hasn't been a factor in this offense. It's pretty much Juju Smith-Schuster and Demario Douglas being the 2 wide receivers in this New England Patriot offense. And this week here, it's a pretty decent matchup versus a middle-of-the-pack type of Colt defense that gives up the 16th most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. So this could be a grinded-out game between these 2 teams in Germany. Obviously, an early ball game in the States here. So Juju Smith-Schuster, we know he was good last season with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. This season, obviously not 100%, been dealing on and off with a knee injury. But in deeper leagues, if you need a guy to just get a few points and a sleeper option, he's out there in 80% of fantasy leagues. And the third and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper this week here is Khalil Shakir of the Buffalo Bills. So Shakir out there in 89% of fantasy leagues. He's passed Hardy on the depth chart as the 3rd wide receiver. In the last 3 weeks, he's been putting up some numbers here, Shakir. Right now, he likes him in the slot a lot, is Josh Allen. And we know Allen spreads that football out to everyone. You got Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dalton Kincaid really stepping up. And now Shakir being that slot wide receiver and a go-to guy on 3rd downs or even deep passes. It's definitely worked out for him, and he's taken that Cole Beasley role for this Bill team that we saw Beasley have a few seasons ago. Week 7 at New England, 4 catches, 35 yards. Week 8 versus Tampa Bay, 6 catches, 92 yards. And Week 9 at the Cincinnati Bengals, 4 catches, 57 yards. So right now the targets have been there. The snaps have been there. And this week a good matchup versus a pretty weak Denver secondary where we've seen them get torched for the majority of the season. Even though I know they're coming off a game in Week 8 where they pretty much shut down that Kansas City Chief offense. But anyway, Shakir's been a big part of this offense. He's playing that Cole Beasley role. We saw 2-3 seasons ago that Beasley played for this Bill team in the slot. And I think Shakir can help fantasy owners as the weeks go on. So that's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers here for Week 10 of the fantasy football season.